When Donald Trump won re-election in 2024, headlines all over the US exploded with a mix of disbelief and jubilation. But in a dimly lit bunker halfway across the world, champagne was being popped not in Washington, D.C., but in Pyongyang. Yes, while half of America cried into their late-night takeout, Kim Jong Un was already putting up "Welcome back, bro" banners. You see, while the Western media tried to analyze voter demographics and exit polls, Kim was busy preparing something far more important: his comeback playlist. At the top of it, "Back in Black, We Are the Champions," and of course, "Backstreet's Back." Because for Kim Jong Un, Donald Trump isn't just a geopolitical figure. He's a once-in-a-generation friend, talk show guest, and Instagram co-star. Trump might have shocked the world by walking across the DMZ, but Kim was already shopping for a friendship necklace. And now, in 2025, he finally gets what he wants: Season 3 of the world's most bizarre diplomatic sitcom, Will They Danook? Coming soon to global headlines near you. As the results rolled in on election night, Pyongyang's state TV reportedly interrupted their usual 3-hour tribute to Kim's haircut to broadcast a rare foreign report, breaking, "Our favorite American is back." Kim was seen nodding approvingly, whispering, "We have unfinished business." Why does Kim like Trump so much? It's simple. Other U.S. presidents speak in dense diplomatic language, issue threats through formal channels, and work with international coalitions. Trump? He tweets. He improvises. He calls Kim "my friend" and writes him beautiful letters. It's not diplomacy, it's fan fiction. And unlike the usual bureaucratic dance, Trump brings drama, flair, unpredictability. For Kim, that's not a bug. That's the feature. When other leaders threaten sanctions, Trump offers hamburgers and real estate advice. In a world of protocol, Trump is the wild card. And Kim loves games. So yes, when Trump returned to power, Kim didn't just celebrate. He prepared. Not for war, but for another chance at the world stage. Another chance to be relevant. Another chance to be on TV. And who knows? Maybe this time, the handshake will come with a deal. Or maybe it'll just be a 3-part documentary on Netflix narrated by Morgan Freeman. But one thing's for sure, the world may be nervous. Diplomats may be cautious. But Kim Jong Un? He's having the time of his life. When Kim Jong Un heard that Trump was back in power, his first thought wasn't about nuclear disarmament or peace treaties. No, it was about PR. After all, a re-election victory is not just a political win, it's the ultimate excuse for a grand reopening. And this time, Kim was determined to make sure the grandest stage of all was his. Forget the backdoor diplomacy and dry handshakes. This time, Kim Jong Un had a new vision, the ultimate media spectacle. So, he did what any savvy dictator would do: he assembled his team and kicked off a 2-week brainstorm session in the Supreme Leader's Office of Public Relations. The first rule of the meeting: maximize the drama. Kim knew that for Trump, anything big would work. After all, the man ran a campaign based on branding and hype. So, why not treat this like a reality TV reunion special? The set was to be extravagant, a stage made to look like the North Korean version of the White House, complete with gilded statues of both him and Trump. There would be fireworks, a live studio audience, and, of course, cameras rolling at every moment for the live-streamed international spectacle. Kim Jong Un envisioned millions of people watching him on TV, grinning from ear to ear, as Trump arrived in Pyongyang. This would be his moment. Next on the agenda: the menu. No summit is complete without the perfect dinner spread to showcase how North Korea had come a long way. Kim decided on a lavish banquet with dishes that symbolize his country's progress over the years: nuclear egg rolls, sanction-free sushi, and for dessert, of course, a gigantic freedom cake that looked suspiciously like an oversized North Korean flag. While this was happening, Trump was sitting in Mar-a-Lago, also preparing. But instead of meeting with diplomats or strategists, he was busy tweaking his Twitter bio to read: negotiating peace, building friendships, breaking world records. Trump, of course, did not waste time on the details. He left that to his team, who by now had learned that the best way to deal with Trump's foreign policy was to simply react to his tweets. The most important part, though, was making sure the narrative was just right. Both Trump and Kim knew this wasn't about the actual policy, it was about who would look better on the global stage. So, a deal was needed, yes, but it had to be something spectacular, something that would look like a win. Kim was ready to claim his prize, a nuclear deal signed in glittery gold ink, with lots of photos for the media to run with. But Trump had his own demands. He insisted that the summit be broadcast live on multiple networks, including a special Trump-produced segment titled, "How I Made North Korea Great Again." And because no good negotiation happens without a game of poker, Trump made sure to invite not only Kim, but his closest allies, South Korean President Moon Jae-in, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and, just for fun, former President Obama, who'd be asked to give a concession speech should the talks fail. The world's attention was set to focus on this grand spectacle. No longer was this just a diplomatic meeting, it was an event. But there was one crucial detail left to iron out, the dramatic ending. Kim wanted it to be big, like, really big. Perhaps a surprise announcement. A handshake turned into a mic drop. A toast to nuclear peace with everyone tossing their champagne glasses in the air. The big day has arrived. It's the moment the entire world, well, mostly just the media, has been waiting for. Trump and Kim Jong Un, together at last. Or rather, together again. The world's most dysfunctional diplomatic duo was about to come together for yet another round of nuclear negotiations. But before anything could happen, a little detail had to be sorted out, how to make sure the cameras catch every moment of drama. Kim had already laid out the perfect setting. The stage was set in a luxurious hall, built with the same degree of thoughtfulness as an influencer's Instagram shoot. The room was decked out in gold, gold walls, gold curtains, gold chairs, even a gold-plated microphone. And just in case the cameras didn't catch the grandeur, Kim ensured the lighting was strategically placed to make him look 10 pounds thinner. He wasn't going to miss a single moment of looking good. On the other side, Trump was ready. He was, of course, prepared with his own personal touch, a gigantic flag with his face printed on it, proudly hanging over the entrance to the summit hall. And just for the fun of it, he made sure to bring along a special guest, his own personal hairstylist, who would be on standby to make sure Trump's iconic hair was, in fact, as iconic as it always was. He was ready for the cameras. And he was ready for the world. As the two leaders took their places at the table, the cameras clicked away, capturing every angle of this extraordinary reunion. Kim Jong Un smiled, his famous smile, the one that could melt the coldest of hearts, but which also sent chills down the spines of world leaders. Trump, ever the showman, beamed proudly, flashing his trademark thumbs up and, of course, giving a salute to the camera. But there was a twist. Despite the fanfare, the fireworks, and the dramatic build-up, neither side had prepared for the one thing they couldn't control, public opinion. As the two leaders sat across from each other, the media broadcasted this spectacle to millions of people worldwide. And the reactions were mixed. Across America, the reactions were nothing short of explosive. Trump supporters were glued to their screens, eyes wide with excitement, cheering on every word and gesture from their beloved leader. "This is it," they shouted. "This is what we've been waiting for." Meanwhile, Trump's detractors rolled their eyes in disbelief. "Same old Trump," they grumbled. "Same old bluster." Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, European leaders were busy trying to make sense of it all. Why is this even happening, they wondered. What does this mean for global stability? Back in Pyongyang, Kim's supporters were just as excited. They cheered as their leader exchanged pleasantries with the men who, just a few years ago, had been labeled an enemy of the state. Kim Jong Un had done what no other North Korean leader had been able to do, he had made a deal with the US. And he made it look easy. Yet despite all the hype, there was still the lingering question, what was actually going to happen next? What were these two leaders really negotiating? And, most importantly, what did it mean for the rest of the world? The truth was, no one knew. And perhaps that was the point. In the world of Trump and Kim, it wasn't about outcomes. It was about the spectacle. It was about the drama. It was about the show. As the summit finally started taking shape, the inevitable questions began, who's actually winning here? Kim Jong Un had been playing the long game, but Trump was in it for the publicity. Every step he took was designed for a highlight reel, a future campaign ad, or, let's be honest, another segment on Fox News. Kim, ever the perfectionist, had already envisioned himself as the victor in this bizarre spectacle. After all, Trump wasn't known for his attention to detail in these talks. Kim had always been the one pulling the strings. But even so, as the summit progressed, the theatrics were difficult to ignore. Kim couldn't help but smile. He knew that if he played his cards right, he would walk away with more than just a piece of paper. He would walk away with global prestige. Meanwhile, Trump. He had other ideas. The whole summit felt like an episode of his old reality show, The Apprentice, but with one crucial difference. This time, it was Kim who was fired if the deal didn't go according to plan. Trump was constantly finding ways to make himself the center of attention, posing for photos, shouting words of encouragement, and turning every moment into an opportunity for a soundbite. The press, of course, lapped it up. With cameras rolling, Trump and Kim exchanged empty pleasantries while the media salivated over every word. It was a spectacle. It was a show. But did anyone actually care about the substance of the talks? Public relations disaster? Or public relations dream? The question loomed, who was really winning this? In the traditional sense, no major breakthroughs had occurred. Kim hadn't agreed to full denuclearization, and Trump's vague promises of deals were just that, promises. Yet, by the time the summit ended, they both had something. Trump had a moment for his campaign, and Kim had an international audience willing to entertain his demands. But the real winners were, as always, the media. They couldn't get enough. From North Korea's state-controlled TV to CNN, every outlet was covering the summit like it was the Oscars. Kim's smile made headlines, Trump's handshake was dissected by pundits, and the world eagerly waited for the next episode. And let's not forget the subtle, but important, players behind the scenes. While the two leaders focused on grandstanding, other actors had quietly entered the fray: China, Russia, and South Korea, all calculating the impact this spectacle would have on their geopolitical standing. Were they cheering for a breakthrough? Not necessarily. But a diplomatic failure would have set the region back by years, so they played along, watching, waiting for the outcome. Trump's unseen hand. There was also the Trump factor. The US president had made sure to play the game his way. A slow negotiation would work to his benefit. After all, an ongoing drama was far better than a quick resolution. And so, Trump took his time, met with Kim just enough to show he was trying, but avoided hard commitments. Why rush the deal? Trump knew that a prolonged saga would keep the spotlight on him. For Kim, this was a delicate balancing act. While he might not have been getting all the immediate gains he'd hoped for, he knew that time was on his side. The longer the summit dragged on, the more Trump had to keep returning to him for more talks, keeping the momentum alive. It was like a relationship, but with nuclear weapons and missile tests thrown into the mix. Kim played coy, letting Trump chase him, knowing that the more he held back, the more Trump would want. The endgame, a draw. When the summit ended, there was no grand handshake agreement. No one walked away with a prize. But both sides could claim victory. Trump would spin it as a successful meeting of the minds, and a precursor to a new chapter in global diplomacy. Kim would smile and claim a moral victory, showing the world that his presence had been recognized. The media. And so, the summit ended, not with a bang, but with a whimper of applause. Both Trump and Kim smiled at the cameras as if they had just sealed the fate of global peace with a handshake. But what had they really achieved? A photo op, a few empty promises, and the satisfaction of knowing that they would both walk away as heroes in their own narrative. The press, of course, had their field day. Historic meeting, they proclaimed. Breakthrough, they shouted. But as always, the real story was buried under layers of political theater. The world would debate for months whether anything truly changed. Would North Korea dismantle its nuclear program? Was there a secret agreement? Did Trump even know what he was agreeing to? In truth, the summit was like a season finale of a reality show, full of drama, tension, and just enough suspense to keep the audience hooked. But when the cameras stopped rolling, there was no real conclusion, just a cliffhanger. Would there be another summit? Another season? Probably. After all, this was the kind of show that never really ends. Kim Jong Un, for all his carefully curated charisma, knew this game well. He didn't need Trump to win the big diplomatic battle. He just needed to keep playing. Every time Trump came to the table, Kim had a new card to play, a new scenario to manipulate. Trump, ever the showman, would declare victory, but in reality, Kim had mastered the art of dragging things out, making each round last longer than the last. A few years of negotiations meant more attention, more time on the world stage. And Trump? Well, for him, this was about the long game too. Who needs a peace deal when you can have endless headlines? The next election cycle was fast approaching, and a few more rounds of successful talks would give him something to tout as he campaigned. He could hold up his hand, give that grin, and say, "Look, I brought North Korea to the table." But as the dust settled, one thing became abundantly clear: no one really won. Kim got the recognition, the prestige, and the ability to play the world's most high-profile game of political chess. Trump got the headlines, the stage, and the chance to claim victory without actually having to deliver on any real promises. The world, on the other hand, got what it always gets from these spectacles: a dramatic story with no real ending. Diplomacy, as it turned out, was not the goal here. The goal was to stay relevant, to keep the show running, and to ensure that the world never stopped watching. So, as Kim Jong Un and Donald Trump left the stage, one question echoed through the halls of global politics: was this the beginning of a new era of diplomacy, or just another season of The Trump and Kim Show? In the end, both sides would claim victory, and the world would keep watching, waiting for the next episode. And just like any good reality show, you never really know when the plot will twist, except, of course, for the fact that it never really does.